Good morning and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. Bryce, what is going on?
No, not much, buddy. Glad to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So today we're going to do something a little different. It's going to be the first part of a new series that we're going to do celebrating one LeBron James as he attempts to break the all-time NBA scoring record. Speaking of that, Bryce, I heard a little something happened last night.
What was that?
I heard he hit a career high 9 3 pointers.
Yeah, I think they need him to hit those many 3 pointers right now to win a game, maybe, and they still lost. But yeah, it seems like he's having a great season. He's having a great season.
Yeah, he's having a fucking fantastic season as he marches toward this all-time record. So we're gonna start in the past for a minute, but just to give everyone an update, as of last night's loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, LeBron James is currently now. Let's do this. Gotta do math. I was the English guy in school, not the math guy. 177 points away from tying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and of course, he'll be 178 points away from becoming the all-time scorer in the history of the NBA. Bryce, just off the top of your head, what are your thoughts on LeBron James, barring any setbacks, breaking this record?
He's gonna do it in 5 games. That's my prediction. Um, it was never really something I thought about until the last couple years. If I'm being honest. I think it's just a monumental step for him. And one thing maybe that has taken the shock away is, like I said, for one, I wasn't like really looking for it, but now that it's here, you've always said that he's gonna go down. Despite the GOAT conversation, if you don't want to have it, it's whatever. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, but he's probably going to go down as like the best statistical player of all time, regardless of your opinion on him. And I think securing this record, um, and honestly, the fashion he's doing it in, almost in the same way that Steph Curry is just shattering, or he did shatter the 3 point record, and it's just going to continue to grow because the time of his career, like how much time he has left. LeBron
Mhm.
still has a lot of gas in the tank from like a perspective in which a player would have to use his whole career to reach this mark that he's in. He's probably still got a couple seasons left. So I don't know if we're ever going to see this record get broken again. At least not maybe in our lifetime. I think it's going to be a very long time. So it's a huge monumental undertaking. Of course, we thought maybe Karl Malone was going to get close at one point. He fell short, and now it looks like LeBron James is going to hold that title, and it's going to give him another little check on his resume for having that good conversation against Michael. You know, not having as many rings. Some of that gets negated by having this record. So it's just an interesting note, but I mean it's a big deal for sure.
Absolutely. So I have the list up of right now the current top 10 all-time scores. So we're going to go from 10 to 1, of course. NBA champion Moses Malone, um, NBA great Carmelo Anthony. I had to say something respectful because he's not a champion. No shade. Um, NBA champion Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal. Moses Malone is in the Hall of Fame as well. NBA champion and Hall of Famer Wilt Chamberlain. NBA champion and very soon to be Hall of Famer Dirk Nowitzki. The GOAT Michael Jordan. Yeah, I don't. I need to say anything else. The late great Kobe Bryant, Hall of Famer Karl Malone, and of course LeBron James at second, and then maybe to some the third or fourth GOAT Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the number one leading scorer in the history of the NBA.
Pat
Um,
Riley said that he's his goat.
Well, and I understand that because he coached them for 10 years, 10 or 11 seasons. So I get that. I get that.
Mm.
Um, Pat Riley wouldn't be Pat Riley without Kareem and without Magic Johnson. So I definitely get his love and affinity for those guys, and that will never change. Pat Riley is an extremely loyal guy. Um, I can tell you in 2023 or probably 2022 when I started hearing about this kid. Um, I watched a couple. ESPN started televising his high school games. It was the first time that's ever happened. And I'm just like, why are we putting all this stock into this kid? And I watched a couple of those games. I just remember the arenas being packed. I'm like, okay, he's a good player. There's a couple of other players around that time that was pretty good. Um, I didn't even hear about Carmelo. There's another one. Forgive me his name, but he fell off big time. But him and LeBron were like one and two. Showtime did a documentary on the other kid years ago, and I just forgot his name. Um, but I don't pay attention to rookies. I don't care about rookies. And one day I was watching the NCAA tournament, which I rarely watch, but I was watching it, and I saw a certain kid drop a triple double against Kentucky. And they were talking about the story with this kid about him being an early father, yada yada yada. I'm like, okay, he might be pretty good. So, um, but Sports Illustrated deemed LeBron the chosen one very early, and some people were rubbed the wrong way by that. Bryce, do you remember the iconic chosen one cover?
Um, I'm gonna say I do. I'm pretty sure I do. There's a couple images that are pop. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, of course. The face is what did it for me every time. It stuck with me. It stuck with me. But yes, I've seen that. I do remember some of the hype. I wasn't paying as close attention to basketball then. I was starting to get back into it some. But
Mhm.
this came right before I was really watching it a lot again. But I mean, I of course saw him, and I saw this pretty much everywhere. So. Mhm.
So this cover caused some to be stressed, some saying it was too early, too soon, and not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way to say, hey, this kid hasn't even graduated high school yet. Why are we putting this title on this kid, the chosen one? So this was actually his first nickname before he even named himself the King, which still rubbed people the wrong way because they're like, okay, little too early to be calling yourself the King or King James. Little too early for Sports Illustrated to be calling him the chosen one. And then also, he's wearing number 23. Okay. So some people were worried about, would this kid be able to deal with the pressure of being the chosen one? Well, I can say absolutely. He is the most put together NBA player I have ever seen in my life. Now, were there some missteps on social media that other players, older players, didn't have to deal with? Yes. I believe if Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone had grown up in a social media era, they probably would have made the same mistakes that LeBron James made. They probably would have made worse mistakes that LeBron James made given their histories. Okay. Because they were involved in some shit that LeBron James was never involved in. And I'm talking about infidelities, sexual
Mm.
misconduct, all types of things that players like that were involved in pre-social media that LeBron James in social media was never involved in. So for that, I give a great kudos to LeBron James because he has navigated himself tremendously throughout the entirety of his career. But Bryce, as an NBA fan, what was your earliest memory of seeing LeBron James on the basketball court as a Cleveland Cavalier the first time?
um, just the athletic freak that he is. To see a guy his size, his like kind of like his body maturity, the way he was already so developed at a young age, for him to move like that and that be that fast, and that powerful. I don't know if we've ever really seen that. We've seen big guys be mobile. You know, you got Shaq, but I don't think we'd ever seen someone the size of LeBron like be that thick, be that strong. Even when he was young, I mean, he's definitely bulked up over the years. We know, but still,
Mhm.
for me especially, like there wasn't a lot going on at that time that stood out to me that compared to LeBron James. And to this day, like he's pretty unique in terms of his athleticism, his size, like all those things still surprise me to this day. Like when you watch him, you know you're kind of seeing something special, like unique. Um, but my biggest thing was like how many people can be labeled that even in high school, right? And then actually have the type of career that pans out to be that way. Because you can have phenoms come in and have long careers. But I mean, Sports Illustrated was dead on with their prediction. I mean, how many guys come in and they're in these final, they're legends. Even before he's finished his career, they're having GOAT conversations about him. You know, it is something special. It's like what Tiger ever heralded in his sport before before he got professional. Did they knew he was a phenom? Maybe the Serena sister or maybe the Williams sisters. What was there any other athlete that was given all this attention from day one and actually lived up to the hype or didn't derail their career in some way? Because you also nailed it. He stayed away from major controversies. I mean, there's been a lot of player or people that didn't like him, of course, when he made his choice. You know, the famous choice that what we're going to get to later. But it, you know, for the most part, he's navigated the waters, and now he has this long career. I just don't know if another athlete off the top of my head that was like someone was willing to give that title to as young as high school, and then it actually worked out, because that takes another like mental aspect as well that makes him as special as he is the willingness to want to be that and to just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be very, 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 very respectful with what I'm about to say here. Um, there were a couple of bumps in the road early. He had to navigate his mother respectfully. Um, there was also a situation where pre-draft, right before the draft, a Hummer was purchased, and people were questioning. Um, people were it was I believe it was
Yeah,
the H2. Could have been the H3. Getting the years wrong. Brand new
right.
Hummer. People were questioning, of course, due to his mother's financial situation. How could he have a Hummer? Okay, $100,000 car at the time. Right before he got drafted, by the way. So people were questioning that.
When did he sign
Um,
the Nike deal? Because didn't he do that before he got drafted?
no, he signed it on draft night.
Okay, okay,
Uh, he couldn't sign it before, so they can't sign it before. He signed it on draft night. I believe he purchased a Hummer maybe a month or two before the draft. But the Nike contract was still even it, upon itself was something great because it's been years ago. The numbers have left me. I believe it was over $90 million on draft night just from Nike. So that's something else that made LeBron stand apart. Like we had never seen that before. The kid had a $90 million Nike contract coming into the NBA. Like we don't
yeah,
usually you wait a year and then you get that once we see how you pan out as a player, right? Um, so we Tiger was close. The Williams sisters were close. So you were dead on with that. But we had never seen an athlete come into the NBA um, as touted as LeBron James. There was that kid in hockey years ago, Crosby. He was close to LeBron James too. But we had never seen anything like this. And like I said, for him to live up to all of those expectations, I believe he damn near had a triple double his first NBA game against Sacramento Kings. Um, it was like, oh yeah, shit's getting real. Um, a couple of things I want to shout out. The late great Paul Silas, who we just lost a month ago. was LeBron James' first coach in Cleveland. And I would always tell people he was the only coach until the Miami years that kind of got it right with LeBron and put LeBron in the best positions to win, to run his team. LeBron played damn near exclusively point guard his rookie year, and it was a thing of beauty. It was an absolute thing of beauty. He morphed into more of a point forward role, but Paul Silas had him running that offense, and it was a great choice. It was a great choice. Um, so rest in peace to Paul. I initially was against all the hype. Um, of course, I mentioned the guy that dropped a triple double on Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. I'm talking about Dwayne Tyrone Wade Jr. Of course, we drafted Wade to the Miami Heat. Of course, same year as LeBron went to Cleveland, Carmelo went to Denver. Um, so I was letting my feelings because I'm seeing all the press LeBron's getting. I'm seeing all the press Carmelo's getting. I'm like, I got a kid in Miami who's just as good or even better. Okay. Um, Wade was drafted to a more stable situation at that time. Wade won a championship in year 3. My question for you is, Bryce, how surprised are you that the year after Wade won his championship, LeBron James started putting it together, destroyed the Detroit Pistons in the conference finals, and made it to his very first NBA finals to face the San Antonio Spurs?
I just think that's the way it goes. It takes timing. It takes the right situation around you. It just takes time. Like you said when you mentioned it, Dwayne Wade, he got drafted to a better situation. He got drafted to a Pat Riley led team. you that there was experience winning there. LeBron was in Cleveland and was basically the rookie as the leader. Yeah, or a leader as a rookie. I think that takes longer to figure out, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, the the situation our peers are in to use as a motivator, I don't think can maybe be downplayed in that situation, especially when you hear that those guys talked and were friends beforehand. I'm sure that motivated him, but you can't rush things in the NBA. If you're the younger team, if you're a team figuring out how to win a championship, we talk about it in phases. Like these teams have to take steps every year. They're going to hit a roadblock. The next year, they're going to make it past that last year's roadblock. LeBron being young, being the leader of that team, it makes sense that it would take time for them to get there when Miami's in a better team situation to begin with. Dwayne Wade can be what he is, but he doesn't have to be the leader of a championship team yet. He can learn how to do it in his own time, but he got there before LeBron did. So it makes sense that it was both like a motivator in one aspect, but I mean, if you're LeBron, if you're one of those athletes, that there's a way to use things as motivation, but then there's a time where you have to put blinders up and just play your game, and you can't be worried about other shit. So
Right, right.
maybe it played a role in terms of some motivation, but I don't think there's anything ironic or like it happened the year after Wade. Like I don't think there's anything much to be said about that in terms of timing. Just think Miami was in a better team situation.
Ain't that what I just said?
Yeah, so why even ask me a dumb fucking question like that?
I'm not firing shots at LeBron James, you little shit.
I know, I
I'm
know.
just I'm just simply I'm just simply saying that Wade got the championship first.
Stop
I'm not
making this
knocking.
about Wade and the Heat. Stop
I'm
making it
not
about
knocking.
Wade and the Heat. Let's keep
Look,
going. Come on, you
you're gonna hate me on the next episode. That's all I'm gonna say. You're gonna fucking hate me. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm bringing it all together. Okay.
I know you
So
are, but
thank you. This is follow, please. Um, so I just remember one, the Spurs are an incredible organization. They're an incredible team. And I do remember LeBron getting there, and this is no shot, absolutely was not ready for that moment. Absolutely was not ready for that. Deer in headlights, did everything he could. Um, and the Spurs knew, I mean, the Spurs smelt blood. So we kind of talked about something similar the other day when the Magic played the Rockets in the finals of '95, and how Houston, kind of feared the Magic at first, but then saw how inexperienced they were, and were like, "Nah, we got this." And I think that's kind of what the Spurs did to Cleveland, because they pretty much ass raped Cleveland. It was a sweep. Um, they would leave LeBron James open a lot, and we're actually going to go back to that in next episode too. But they would leave LeBron open a lot, and LeBron missed a lot of shots, and sometimes he would find his teammates and they would miss a lot of shots. So it wasn't his best NBA Finals performance, but the fact that he got there at such a young age um, stood out. Stood out.
Mm.
That would be his only time in his first stint with Cleveland going to the finals. LeBron had some issues against Boston. Um, had some issues against Orlando. What are your thoughts on the Orlando series that stood out right before LeBron left Cleveland to go to Miami?
Um, I would say for LeBron, like the perfect situation, it's like bad luck in terms of who you could run into as a team. Because at that time, having Dwight Howard there and that defensive presence,
Mhm.
I mean, LeBron James was like a freak, right? But he couldn't drive through Dwight Howard. Um, it, Dwight Howard being there changed a lot of things for the Magic. And we were basically one of the first. People like to talk about like Golden State and what they did for 3-pointers, but right before that, the Magic were actually one of like I feel like changing the culture on how a 3-point shot was handled, because we had some big guys playing basically an in and out style basketball where we had our power forward at Rashard Lewis at, I forget how tall he was, but he was hitting threes. You know what I mean? Like
6'10".
everybody on our team was hitting threes outside Dwight Howard. And so I just think with our size, length, and our paint presence with Howard, I just think from a team standpoint, it was too much for LeBron and that Cavs team to overcome. Like we were just built really well, and we played well. Um, that was the year I believe we went. Yeah, we went to the finals, of course, and lost to the Lakers. But we just had like the perfect personnel to pull that off. And like I said, LeBron James was still, you know, at the earlier part of his career, so it was something he just couldn't overcome. I remember watching a lot that season, seeing those playoff series, and more so the finals than the conference finals, but it just seemed like Orlando wasn't going to be denied that year. And we were
Yeah,
built
yeah.
perfectly to deal with that. So it worked out well for Orlando, of course, and it took away something a lot of people wanted to see, though, and that would have been the only chance LeBron and Kobe had to go at it at the final in the finals. So
Yeah,
some
it
people,
was the NBA wanted that finals, by the way. We had, yeah, I don't know if you remember, they had little Muppet commercials and shit, the Muppet Kobe and the Muppet LeBron throughout that whole season. That's what the NBA wanted. Unfortunately, the NBA didn't get it. Unfortunately, the fans didn't get it, but that Orlando Magic team was a buzzsaw. Um,
that's what. Real quick though,
LeBron,
we've talked about the refs in the league and their and what they want many times on this
mhm,
podcast, and that's why I say to make it past that, you just have to be undeniable. And that year, it didn't
right,
matter what shenanigans, because Orlando was just that good that year.
they were absolutely.
So
Um, the the last three playoff losses that LeBron suffered as a Cleveland Cavalier in his first stint were to the Celtics, to the Magic, and then finally to the Celtics again. During this time, I believe 2 years up until the decision, around the time we had the Redeem team, there was whispers. Where's LeBron gonna go? Up to 2 years before he left, there was whispers. People were talking. I can unequivocally say LeBron James is going to be a New York Knick. That was the place. If he didn't win a championship in Cleveland, New York was the place he was going to go. He was gearing up for it. The family was gearing up for it. The Knicks, such a fucking mess. They fumbled the ball. They fumbled the bag. They absolutely fumbled the franchise. And they didn't do what needed to be done to make sure that not only could you get LeBron, but could you surround LeBron with other talent. That's where they kind of dropped the ball at. Respectfully, in his last playoff series with Cleveland, he had another issue going on with his mother. He wasn't himself. And I don't believe any player who had to deal with that situation would have been themselves with the revelation that your mother was sleeping with one of your closest teammates. So we're just putting it out there. He had the pressure of a certain decision coming up. He had the pressure of, at that point, trying to return to the NBA Finals because that was the, give me 1 second, that was the Eastern Conference semis that year. So he had that pressure trying to get back to the finals. And then you have the situation with your mother. LeBron wasn't himself in that series against the Boston Celtics. He looked shell shocked. Do you think Cleveland had a chance to keep him? Do you think he could have brought a championship to Cleveland during the first stint had he stayed?
Yeah, I think they took it a little for granted, maybe, and maybe just didn't take it as seriously as they needed to in terms of getting him some help. They just didn't know. There's more question marks than in just in terms of maybe what they should have done, because the second time around they definitely had it set up to win. But I just in terms also the team, they hadn't really had success like that again in a while. So it just seemed like the whole organization was learning again. Is the feeling I get now. I could be wrong, of
Mhm.
course. It was a long time ago, but uh, it was like Orlando with Shaq. It's like just give him the money. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like give LeBron James help. Like you didn't know
Mhm.
what you had when you had it, and you would never make
Mhm.
that mistake again. So to do over again, Cleveland would be like, yeah, let's give him somebody. You know what I mean? It's different. Um, so I just think it's a learning experience. I mean, if you win then, if you win early, if you get lucky and you pull off, maybe you don't go to Miami, maybe you don't link up with guys, maybe you don't win more. You could say it could go a lot of ways, but it worked out the way it did.
Yeah. Um, it didn't end the best in Cleveland. We're going to dig into all of that next episode. But hindsight is always 2020. And like you said, they didn't know what they had, nor was anyone ready for what was to come. I'll say that. Um, so to all the fans of the NBA, to all the fans of LeBron James, we're going to celebrate LeBron James as he marches toward breaking the NBA's all-time scoring record, a record that I thought I wasn't going to see for a very long time. You know, outside of Karl Malone getting couple of couple of thousand points away before his knees gave out. Um, please like, subscribe, share our content, give us shout outs. We love all the comments we get. Drop those likes on us. Tell your friends about us. We love you all, and we will see you next time because we're going to cover the biggest decision in the history of the NBA.